Welcome, everyone. I'm Dr. Liana Lianov, the president and founder of the Global Positive Health Institute, and welcome to this Global Positive Health Institute's podcast series where we talk about all things related to positive psychology, health, healthcare, and healthy lifestyles. And today we have with us Dr. Marc Braman, who has been one of the leaders in the lifestyle medicine community and a longtime friend, former president of the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, who is thinking big picture about how we really get to the underlying challenges of getting to a healthy lifestyle because of not only the behaviors we do, but what underlies those behaviors. In fact, before this podcast, we were having a lovely discussion about that. So welcome, Marc.
Thank you, Liana. That was a fun, vigorous discussion.
And so, yeah, share with our audience kind of what really grabs your attention around this field of lifestyle medicine, and then particularly how it fits also with what we're calling positive psychology in a very global sense and how all that comes together.
Yeah. So lifestyle medicine intrigued me actually since before medical school. So I came to medical school actually kind of reluctantly. I had become very interested in sort of a more holistic approach to health, nutrition, healthy living kinds of stuff. And obviously conventional medicine is really not focused on that. So that was my framework or interest going in. In terms of positive psychology, again, it just comes back in my mind to this concept of wholeness. And we are whole people. And to not just do the broken toe in room 3, but hey, that's Mrs. Smith, she's my neighbor 2 blocks over, and these are her kids, and this is what's going on in her life, and this is how the broken toe affects her life and her as a person. So it's really just this bigger picture. And actually, there was 2 different points in my career that I thought very seriously about pursuing a doctorate degree in psychology. So I've always been really interested in how people work. What makes us tick? Why do we do what we do? It's so interesting.
That is really the core of how we live our lives, how we achieve happiness, and what we're now saying is it's how we achieve health. And not a lot of healthcare systems and health providers really talk about that. As we were saying, there's just too much of a focus on the concrete diseases, the concrete behaviors. And so lately there have been groups that have trying to look at the bigger picture, like the Veterans Affairs Whole Health Program. Even within our lifestyle medicine community, we're talking more about that whole person-centered approach, which is great. There's a lot of talk there. It hasn't really hit the practical aspects of healthcare just yet. And so that's really important, is to see how we can bring that to the fore and start from there in terms of our healing and well-being.
Yes. Are you going to be editing this? Or is this one?
Well, I can edit it now. We usually go, so if you want to redo parts, that's okay. Yes.
Well, I've got a lot of noise in the background. I don't know if it's coming through.
I'm not hearing it. So we're good. Yeah.
Let me try to deal with it. I'll be right back.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Hey, hon. I'm doing a video recording for YouTube right now. So the noise is really an issue. See you later. Okay. My 4-year-old nephew is having a grand time playing with my wife, but it's too close, too loud.
I didn't hear it, but that's good. Okay,
that's good. Always interesting what you hear later.
All right, we'll jump in to the next section here. So Marc, with regard to healthy lifestyles, positive psychology, and really boosting your own happiness and health, how are you applying this in your own life, and how are you applying it with your patients?
Okay. Two questions, both very relevant. Number one, I'm actually kind of, we're all a laboratory for our own experience. So I'm no different in that sense. So I'm always looking at, what am I learning? How's it working or not working for me? Where could I do something better? Do I like that result? What would I do differently to get a different result? So one of the things that actually just hit my radar in the last couple of days, as an example, is it's not a new concept, but what could I do with it more and be more concrete with it? And that's gratitude and similar kinds of things. So I'm toying with the idea of having some pretty regular time, just kind of every evening, to just be grateful and or just to do something for enjoyment's sake. No, it's not a task I have to get done, but just purely something I enjoy doing.
Something you want to do.
Something I want to do, but particularly sort of relative to gratitude. And that might be reaching out to family members or friends that I haven't talked to in a long time, or similar kinds of things. Now, in terms of patients, positive psychology, wow, everything is positive psychology in essence. In my mind, lifestyle medicine is about 70% psychology and 30% okay, yeah, you should exercise and here's better food and whatnot. So it's really mostly about what's going on in people's heads, because what we do is simply the product of what's up here. So I've been working for our discussion on frameworks that really help make that tangible and help people understand how they work, why they're not working, and how we get a different result. So if they're doing poor behaviors, if they're just the couch potato eating potato chips, well, where's that coming from? Why am I doing this? I know it's not good for me. I know I'm way overweight. I know I feel terrible. And I know I need to change this, but I'm not. How did I get here? How am I going to get a different outcome? And it's not going to work just from saying, don't eat so many potato chips. And I'm almost, sort of not saying dummy. So it's how do you engage with people to thrive and to work well? And there's all kinds of details to that. Probably one of the upcoming questions, I'll just sort of jump to a specific, is, what does this look like in practice? One of the specific tools I find most helpful, and I have sort of a fundamental construct of the elements of lifestyle medicine, and I put it under resilience. Some people would call it stress management. Some people call it other things. But one of the fundamentals as to why we do things that are not good for us and what keeps us from doing the good things is we're in this state of stress. And what many people don't think through, or it's not really on the radar, is stress is very draining. And so people are tired from being so stressed. And then you, doc, want to give me more stuff to do. Go exercise, and cook different and all this kind of stuff. And that just doesn't work really well when you're really tired, and you're just getting through the day. So one of the most productive, practical places to start is helping people unwind that feedback loop between emotion and the physical, and the adrenal glands and cortisol and adrenaline, to get that calmed down, to get them out of chronic fight or flight, and get some regular, what I call activation of nourish and flourish. Some people call it rest and digest, the autonomic nervous system, the two branches. But how do we calm this side down and get this side working again, which is the things that restore us at an organ and tissue level? Then we stop the energy spend. Then we have energy to work with. Now it's more productive to talk about, what are the next steps? What are we ready for? Versus let's just give you a to-do list when you're already overwhelmed.
Yeah, you've hit an important piece, which is that sense of energy, sense of vitality that we all need before we can move forward with anything in our lives, and particularly any changes in our lives, which take extra effort, take extra energy. So where is that energy going to come from naturally? Well, it comes from what we like to do, what we enjoy, what brings us joy, what all the elements that we talk about in the under the bigger umbrella of positive psychology. And there are different areas of emphasis for different folks, but really it's starting there. It's those things that we're naturally driven to do because we naturally want to be happy. And when we're happy, we're more energetic. Oh, then we can shift to the other aspects of our lives.
Yes. And touching on that, that's very similar and is a concept I don't think that we have developed in medicine or in society as a whole. I call it positive pleasures or practicing positive pleasures. And it sort of ties into what I was saying I'm doing for myself right now. We're not very good at enjoying our lives. And that sounds simplistic, but it's actually pretty deep and pretty important. If you stop and think about it, why is, let's go back to the couch potato example. Why are they sitting there stuffing their face with potato chips? Well, potato chips are not a natural food. They've got grease and sugar and salt and all this stuff that just blows out our taste buds. Why do I need my taste buds to be blown out? Why can't I get satisfaction from a normal kind of food? Oh, well, I'm not very good at experiencing the pleasure of eating, so I need something that's a sledgehammer to get my attention, at least for a little bit. And then I need to do it over and over again because that's not how it's designed to work, and it doesn't work very well. So how do I learn to enjoy, even more so, the foods that I'm designed for in nature to consume? And if we're not getting good enjoyment and satisfaction from that, that tells us our pleasure systems aren't working properly. So to come back to your point, it's kind of a unique concept to put pleasure as a central role in healthcare. But it's actually really important, and it's how we're supposed to work, and it's what moves us.
Yeah, it's healthcare systems would say it's very radical. What are you talking about? You know, this is completely outside of our wheelhouse, if you will, but yet we're making the case, you're making the case, it's the center of health well-being, and it's what health providers and health systems should be focusing on.
I mean, you know, if I've got a broken foot, yeah, help me get out of the pain, doc. Let's decrease the pain, but especially for chronic conditions, which most of our issues are these days, the direct pain isn't the driver. But enjoyment could and should be. And Dean Ornish, I think, puts this very well. It's not about, what is it, the fear of dying, it's about the joy of living.
Yeah.
He's absolutely right.
Yeah. So in an ideal world, if we were successful in turning ourselves around, turning the healthcare system around to start from the inside out with health and well-being, as we've been saying, what would that look like? What would self-care look like? What would healthcare look like?
Oh, now you're going big picture. You were saying I was too big picture. It would be very different in many ways. Some of the basic structures and processes may not be that much different, but the patient experience and the manner of engagement would be completely different, which is where it really needs to be different. Getting into, or not getting into, but just touching on, without too much getting into, some of these new frameworks I've been working on that are kind of how humans are put together. We in healthcare approach this as a focus on the behaviors. Did you take the medicine I prescribed you? Did you start exercising like I told you? Whatever it is, the behaviors. The person and the value of them as a person is subject to that, is largely dependent upon, did the patient do the behaviors or not? Which is actually backwards to how we work. Versus, do we start with the person and say, you're the most important piece of this whole process and experience, and this process is to promote your thriving and well-being, not so I can check some box in my digital record system or get graded by some other entity or bureaucracy, and engage with them as such. what's important to you today? What do you want to make sure we cover? That's okay. There's practical application I do with my patients. Well, what do you want to make sure we cover today? What's important to you? And that's honoring the patient, saying you are the most important thing. What are your priorities? What are your values? And that is me communicating value to them. And when people are valued as a who, even if they messed up, oh, you didn't quit smoking yet, like I, was trying to get you to do, but you still care about me as a patient. Oh, well, now I'm a little more interested. Now I'm a little more likely to do it. Hey, this guy's going to actually hang with me. He's not going to, blow me off and put me down and make me feel bad. He actually cares about me. What a concept. The behavior is the product. It's the lesser thing. Yes, we want to help people change their behaviors to get a better whole person result, to feel better, to enjoy life more, versus we tend to approach it as in a way that as a patient feels like you're trying to make me more miserable, doc.
Yeah.
So it's an entire paradigm flip in terms of how we function as humans and how we relate to other humans in helping them function better.
Yeah, it's that shift in focus and shift in emphasis.
It's a complete flip. And it applies to everything. It applies to the broken foot as well as to the, chronic diabetes. In reality, it's not one or the other. This is how we should do it all the time.
Yeah, that's terrific. Well, I know you're working on a book, and that book won't be out for a little while. So in the meantime, listeners who are interested in some of the things we've been talking about, what are some resources they can look to learn more or think more on this important topic?
There's, depending on how we define that topic, in terms of tools I use for my patients, I've been creating some resources, some worksheets, actually about a 14-page document I give to patients as we're working on this first piece of the resilience, getting the fight or flight turned off and the activation of the nourish and flourish, walking them through, with baby steps and structure and process. At some point, we're going to just make that available to the public. And we're going to create online classes for people, a video-based class that anyone can access to walk through the training, to learn how to turn on nourish and flourish and calm down the stress. Within that, I do really like the app, if we can mention specific apps.
Sure.
Power of Calm. It's free. It's in both Android and Apple app stores. And I like it because it is very straightforward and simple. There's other very fancy apps like Calm or Headspace, and they're great and they're expensive, but they confuse people. There's too many bells and whistles and pieces and bunny, rabbit trails and whatnot. Power of Calm is just very straightforward. It's very simple. There's a 2-week training program, and you can set it to different levels of, beginner, intermediate, and learn just the simple basics of how do I breathe? How do I do this on a regular basis? How do I start making that shift? And then I put that within the context of this 14-page document, this walking them through, what I've learned over the years and working with lots of patients and different systems, as to starting with breathing, muscular relaxation, organ level relaxation. How do you know when the physiology is actually shifting? Being very clear that our focus is that physiologic shift at an organ level. Your body's going into repair and recharge mode. That's what we're after. Well, how do I know when that's happening? What does that feel like? What manifestations might there be?
That's terrific. And so when you make those resources available, we're happy to, at the bottom of this video, connected to this video on the podcast series, to share that with folks, as well as whenever your book comes out, we'll put that together for folks so that they are following you and some of these wonderful thoughts that you've shared with us. So I appreciate you joining us for this mini podcast, if you will. And so as we close, what are some main take-home message, or one main take-home message or parting words you have for people?
The theme that keeps coming up over and over again for me, both in the context of writing the book and in working with patients, is wholeness, and really perceiving ourselves and our whole life experience as a wholeness thing versus, getting just focused on one or two or several things. There's so much in the book I would love to just to give to people and share with them. But basically, the concept of the book, and that people can start to use today, is starting to increasingly understand how we're put together. What is it that makes life worth living? What is it that makes us thrive as whole people? And basically, when we get to the end of our life, we go, yeah, that was fantastic. There's nothing I left, undone. There's no stone unturned. I have no regrets. It was 100% full meal deal the whole way. That's what we're after. And it's just a matter of how do we do that?
We all need that. Thank you for that, Mark, because not everyone is bold enough to say that. So I appreciate that very, very much. And again, appreciate you joining us, appreciate your work in this space and lifestyle medicine and positive psychology, and helping all of us to become whole and live our best selves. And we'll probably bring you back again at some point. And thank you to our listeners for following this GPHI podcast. I hope to see you on another one of these. And in the meantime, be happy, healthy, and safe. Till next time, take care, everyone. Bye-bye.